Exactly.
Like, even if you're a mom, it's okay. Like, we could do it all. We really can do it all.
Yeah, I know. And don't
Hate
you?
to toot our horns, but we can. We do
It's
it
true.
all.
Absolutely, right? And don't you think it's interesting though that, it's almost like wine is marketed towards women like, oh, have a glass of wine at the end of the day, but a joint at the end of the day is kind of like taboo.
Right.
Isn't that strange?
I know, it is strange. It really is. It's interesting how that works.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to one day see, being able to promote to women to say, hey, have some flour before bed.
This is the Empire State of Cannabis. Welcome to another episode of Empire State of Cannabis. We have Maria Perry here. She's the founder and CEO of Miss Perry Farms. Maria, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So Maria stopped into our Binghamton location on her way to her farm in Syracuse to finish out our harvest. Maria, can you just walk us through what's going on? What do you have next, and what the next month harvest looks like for you right now?
Yeah, so this year we have our CBG plants and we have our CBD plants. We're growing white CBG, Silver Haze, and Hawaiian Haze. Just harvested our CBG plants. They sort of were ready to go a lot sooner. So those we have drying and curing as of right now. Within the next 7 to 10 days, we'll be moving on to the CBD plants. So right now they're just going through their series of being flushed and, boosting the flower buds for the last about week or so.
Yeah, and so
harvesting.
How many plants do you have altogether? Did you
this year we have 1,500.
Okay.
Yeah, grew a little bit smaller than last year, really focused on our grow plan and really just understanding the plants a lot more, being a little bit more intimate with a smaller amount. So yeah.
So you started the endeavor though last year,
Yes.
right? This is your second year. So last year you grew a little more, right?
About 4,000 plants.
About 4,000.
Yeah, for our first year.
And so how did your first year turn out?
There was a lot of hiccups. We grew actually out in our field last year. So, we dealt with what most farmers deal with, our pests, our climates, and we really had to experience those for the first time and coming up with solutions to those problems. Last year was okay, but it was definitely a huge learning curve, which then changed our whole grow plan for the second year, this year.
Yeah. And so you say we, right? And I think that's kind of natural for a lot of business owners to say we, but it's you. So you started the endeavor. So how did you decide, okay, I'm going to grow hemp and it's your family land,
Yes.
right? So how did that decision work out? Obviously you get the permit. It's one of, I think there's 700 permits out there,
Right.
but your story is very unique. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that backstory, how you got there?
I had the opportunity to grow up on the farm with my grandparents at a young age. My grandmother and my grandfather helped care for me while my mom was going to college. I have 13 female cousins,
Wow.
all within the area. Yeah, we have a pretty big family, very female dominated.
Fun.
So I had the ability, like I said, to grow up helping my grandfather in the fields with the pigs. At the time we had pigs, pumpkin patches, cornfields, baling hay, plowing snow, all the fun stuff. So my grandfather had passed away a couple years ago, so we had all this land. And we weren't really doing too much with it, the farming and everything in the industry. We were maybe putting some hay, yeah, we had hay on the fields. But, for the most part, we really weren't doing too much. So when I saw the opportunity to grow hemp, I thought, wow, this is great. We can put farming really back into our family because we're such hard workers,
Yeah.
and the ability to be able to build a business with all of this land that we have and maximize on it. I really jumped on that opportunity to be able to create and give back to our generation and then the next generation for the family. So
Yeah, and so what is it about cannabis? Was it cannabis that drew you in, or could it have been any crop, or do you think there's something special about the fact that
cannabis, I feel there's just so many wonderful things about cannabis and so many uses and so much positivity that comes out of it. Being that everything's all plant-based, it's medicine, it's Earth's medicine, being able to be a part of this. I mean, I think it's huge. The cannabis community, hemp community, and just the culture that surrounds cannabis, I've always been drawn to.
Yeah.
A lot of different people. Cannabis was always one of those things that brings people together.
Yeah.
And it seems to always create a great, happy atmosphere. So it's just definitely something I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we talk about cannabis, we talk about holistically and adult use cannabis, right?
Right.
Is that kind of, because you've developed a brand, right? Miss Perry Farms, and your brand is very flower focused.
Yes.
Right. So are you looking to go more towards that traditional cannabis consumer and that cannabis industry? And basically this is a step or part of the operation that's going to be, what you hope to be an adult use cannabis operation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Looking at us as a boutique grow, very flower focused on the quality, focused on the transparency, and being able to grow organically, and really set that standard, especially here in New York, and be one of those on the forefront to be able to grow quality flower for consumers that are really flower focused, because there's a huge culture behind the flower part of the industry.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
So
my focus is.
Who is your consumer? We talk about this all the time on the show, the customer archetype, but who do you think is your average consumer? Who are you trying to speak to when you put your product out there?
Oh, wow. There's so many different types of consumers I look for, that are very flower focused. You can look at it from the medicine side. I've spoke to a lot of nurse practitioners, people in the medical field, holistic, medicine, that are very flower focused for their patients. It's just so wide range, I feel like.
Well, we've talked about this idea of, female focused brands and how many brands don't specifically market towards women, right? But women are huge cannabis consumers. So why do you think that they're so undermarketed towards
women as cannabis users? I think there's a bit of a stigma that's connected to a woman that uses cannabis in a sense. There's a judgment maybe behind it. So a lot of women tend to either be a little bit more secretive about using cannabis, especially, a lot of us women are mothers. So it's, there's a lot of different factors that come into play with people that see women using cannabis. But a lot of the women that I know that use cannabis or have used cannabis, in a healthy way, really see a difference in their lifestyle too, with helping with anxiety, mental health, a lot of those things that us women go through on a day-to-day basis, you know, being mothers or being business owners. And you see that with men too, but even more so with women. I think we carry a lot, on our shoulders, and women that I know that use cannabis, like I said, in a healthy manner, just really get the best out of their life, honestly.
Exactly. And we talk about this stereotype and the stigma around cannabis. How important do you think, the fact that, you're a full-time mother, but you're also a real estate agent in the city of Manhattan, right? And then run this farm full-time. So, you really, do you think of yourself as a role model for a lot of females trying to get into the space, or even in the cannabis culture industry in general?
Oh, absolutely. Even more so, I'd like to be an inspiration. Being a young mother, a single mother, and being able to stay motivated and stay focused and determined, and focus on my goals and my dreams while raising a child. And making sure she's healthy and she's living a healthy lifestyle, and her mental health, because it's really important nowadays, right? Our mental health. Just to be an inspiration to women, to really follow your dreams as a business or career paths, but also being the best you, right? As a mother, if you are a mother, or just you in general, and just being an inspiration to women. Just say, hey, go out and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you're a mom, it's okay. We could do it all. We really can do it all.
Yeah, I know. And don't
we hate to toot our horns, but we can. We do it all.
Absolutely, right? And don't you think it's interesting, though, that, it's almost like wine is marketed towards women have a glass of wine at the end of the day, but, a joint at the end of the day is kind of taboo. Right. Isn't that strange?
I know, it is strange. It really is. It's interesting how that works. I'd love to one day see, being able to promote to women to say, hey, have some flower before bed, whether it's your smokables or in your teas and infused. I mean, there's so many ways, right, we can consume.
Yeah.
I see a lot of women just that are cooks and chefs within their home, and just for themselves maybe make a little can of butter to be able to, enjoy for themselves. Or they enjoy smoking before bed, or some edibles or something like that. Any way that they consume, but it's nice because everybody has their own ways and what they like.
Yeah.
But yeah, something before bed.
Yeah, right.
To relax, after a long day's worth of work, and being able to run a household and managing a household or managing business. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the cannabis industry is so male dominated, right? So
Very.
Have you noticed that it's, kind of, there's not many female business leaders in the cannabis space, even in New York. We spoke to Carly Miller-Hornick at Head and Heel about a month and a half ago, and she said, yeah, I mean, it's tough. She's usually the only woman in the room.
Yes.
Do you have that similar experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because in my real estate career, I'm actually in commercial real estate in Manhattan. When I tell people I'm in real estate, they're like, oh, residential, you must be doing these luxury. I said, no, I like retail space, I like the warehouse, and they're like, oh, okay, it's a very male-dominated division within the real estate industry. So it's funny when I walk in the room there, I've sort of been groomed for this. I'm really one of the only females in the room that's in the commercial real estate. It's very male-dominated. So transitioning into the hemp in the cannabis industry and it being male-dominated, I was already really prepared for it. I think just as a woman in the business, it's, you do your due diligence, you gain your knowledge, you have the experience, and you really just plan and, lay a strong foundation for yourself and push through.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of the men in the industry actually very accepting and very respectful towards me, so I'm very happy for that. I feel as I was invited in as a woman, but you have to hold your ground. You got to know your stuff,
Yeah.
You're quizzed a little bit more than others, or, it's being able to stand your ground.
Yeah. And I guess a hope and even observation in the hemp industry is New York being so diverse is that the cannabis industry may be a reflection of New York in general, right? And I think that's a large focus for lawmakers and people starting the industry. Where do you think the place for craft cannabis is going to be in the adult use industry? Do you think it's just almost like a pipe dream, or do you really think that's what consumers are going to want, and craft small brands such as yourself is going to drive the marketplace?
Yeah, to be honest with you, just studying the consumers and speaking to consumers, they focus so much on the quality, and honestly, I feel like consumers nowadays, they really want to have that transparency. They want to feel close to their grower and basically where all their products are coming from, from whether it's produce or anything. I think people are more aware and want to gain more knowledge of what they're consuming, just in general. Foods, it could be anything. So I think being more of a craft type grower is really important because we can share that transparency, and there's a story there, and people like that. They want to, be able to feel comfortable with who they're, getting their flower from. So I think it's really important, and I think the cannabis culture has always been really reliant on their boutique growers. You see it on the West Coast. The quality people do, they stick with certain brands that they know have been around and that are really focused and honed in on what the consumers want.
Yeah, and so being in real estate, it's a very interesting perspective actually, because commercial real estate, it's going to be, everything when adult use comes. Do you think that the New York real estate market on the commercial side, do you think it's prepared for what's going to come in terms of adult use cannabis? I mean, when you think about everything that's going to be needed from the production side all the way through the retail side, do you think there's going to be a lot of challenges in people trying to find space that's suitable for them for adult use cannabis?
I don't know if the industry is necessarily prepared, but there is a lot of space right now available, especially in downstate. I see a lot of it coming more even upstate areas here, really maximizing on the areas, like for example, where our farm is. We have so many people that, would be great for these job positions, honestly. So being able to find buildings even in the upstate area, I think is really crucial. Downstate, right now there's plenty of inventory,
Yeah.
but right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well,
this is the time.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to get in, this is the time.
Well,
so.
the interesting thing about commercial real estate is the fact that you can't really have a mortgage if you're going to have an adult use operation there, because the bank, the lender. So when you see it, do you see a lot of people that are very, like leveraged out on their properties in a sense where they're not going to be able to fully own it? And you think that's a barrier to entry for a lot of small business owners, especially on the retail side?
Absolutely. It is. It's definitely going to be a challenge. We're going to have to find ways to be able to get into these spaces and still be able to, the small business owners, and somehow be able to maximize on our brands, for ourselves, so we're not pushed out by the big guys, in a sense. I think it's really important, like I said, and I think consumers are really going to look for that, those sort of boutique style grows and those brands that they feel connected with.
Yeah.
That's not something that's just being pushed out by the masses, that it really is quality and full transparency.
Yeah. By big cannabis, whatever that's,
Yeah.
And so, going back to your experience now, your second season as a grower upstate of hemp, and sometimes I think that social media in general is a problem, right? Because it only shows the best side of things. But in cannabis, I wonder if it's even a bigger problem, because I think a lot of people get very discouraged because you never see bud rot, right? You never see powdery mildew. You never see the failures on social media and in the news. You always see these beautiful fields, and I feel like people get. And so you went through some struggles your first year, which you said is a learning experience, and that's key. But what did you learn, and can you walk us through some of the struggles and that you went through at the end of last season and last season in general?
Yeah, so last season, like I said, we were in our fields, and we've lived there for so long, so we understand our climate, we know the elements around us. But growing hemp and these plants, people think you just stick it in the ground and it grows, right?
Yeah.
No, they really need to be cared for. And I think that was a huge thing for us, is that we realized how much they needed tending to. Being in the field, between the harvest time, we had so much humidity and rainfall at the time we were harvesting, so that created a lot of moisture within our plants. We did have experience with bud rotting, and pests and beetles and aphids and everything, and we made notes of this, and it was a really tough time, and you could have easily been discouraged, but sat down at the drawing table and said to myself, how can I make this better, and where do I really want to be in the market at this point? So then that's when I decided that this year I really want to be in a greenhouse, still have the outside elements, the natural sunlight, open the sides up and get the natural wind and everything in the circulation, but really being able to control certain other elements within the grow, which really helped us do phenomenal this second year. Less pests, timing, especially being that we're in New York, we only have such a short period of time to grow, right? So being that we have the greenhouse, we're able to maybe start the season a little bit sooner, maybe supplement within the first month or two until the sun really starts beaming in on the summer days, right? To grow. And then harvesting a little bit earlier so we can avoid the aphids and certain beetles, because they tend to come at a certain time. So we're noticing these things and really taking those notes down and finding solutions to the problem, and still staying motivated, and still learning and doing our due diligence. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but you know what? I love it. I've learned so much. I'm so happy this year because we are doing so much better than we did last year, changing the grow plan, and then also just honing in on the flower and being very flower focused.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to kind of scatter when it comes to hemp, because it's so wonderful. There's so many uses, right? So it's let's hone in on what we really want to be great at.
Focus.
And flower focused, and really just fixating on that, doing so well, and really even looking forward to next year.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who's going through the challenges you went through last year right now? And it's starting harvest, and they're looking at a massive amount of failure, and they're just discouraged or down themselves. What would you say to them?
Right. I would say write all the pros down, write all the cons down. Really sit down, and anybody that you worked with, family, or anybody that you hired and friends, or anybody that came in, ask their opinions and their thoughts. Take everything in, and again, really fixate on where it is you want to be in this market, and study that. Study the consumers, study the market, be up to date, make those changes. Like I said, we could, where we sit on our hilltop and certain things, take in all the elements and really just break everything down and, and regroup and replan. And that's what you have to do. You got to just keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
And, see the results for next year, because you will. When you do that, you will see positive results.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to be discouraged and say, forget it, this is too much, But no, you just got to keep pushing through.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you do such a great job documenting your story on social media. So that's at Miss Perry Farms, right? Instagram, Facebook. And is there a place where people can buy your products? Can they find your products?
So we're working on going live with our site. Like I said, this year, flower focused, been working on our brands. I've got a couple of things going on in the pipeline, being very patient about bringing those to consumers, because like I said, really want to be of quality, right? First impressions are everything. So 2021, we'll have the website up. People will be able to purchase flower and see our story and full transparency from seed to sale. And so 2021 we'll be able to have products out for consumers. Right now we're wholesaling, but 2021 will
Excellent.
be the year.
Okay, so follow along on social media and
please
we'll be the
do.
first to know. Okay,
Yeah,
excellent.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Maria. It was a
Thank you.
great
Thank you for
time
having me.
interviewing you. Absolutely.
Yeah.